At the charity gala, I found my daughter in the crowd. When I tried to talk to her, she avoided my questions. Her face was anxious, nervous. When she adjusted her bracelet, I saw something that made my blood freeze. Bruises, dark purple fingerprints circling her wrist. I forced myself to ask calmly. She answered in a trembling whisper. My husband did this. The district attorney. My son-in-law. I didn't yell. I didn't panic. I held her hand, drove her somewhere safe. I made calls. Exactly 96 hours later, my son-in-law's empire began to crumble because a federal prosecutor doesn't get mad. I gather evidence. Thank you for staying with this story. If you're still here, drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from. And just a quick note, this story includes some dramatized elements added to enhance reflection and understanding. Any similarity to real names or places is purely coincidental, but the message behind it is worth hearing. I never believed in fate until that cold November night at the Protect Our Future Gala. The Schuylkill Grand Hotel ballroom was loud with laughter and clinking glasses. I stood near the back in my stiff black suit, holding a drink I hadn't touched. 11 months since Eleanor died, and everything still felt wrong. Too bright, too loud, too many people who remembered when I used to matter. Then I saw her, Ava. My daughter walked toward me through the crowd, and the world narrowed to just her face. Those eyes, they weren't hers anymore. The bright, fierce eyes that once dared the whole world to keep up were gone. These eyes were empty, hollow, the eyes of someone who had already lost inside, but whose body kept moving anyway. She wore a long-sleeved black dress and a silk scarf, even though the room was hot. Nobody else had sleeves. My stomach dropped. "Hey, Dad," she said softly. Her smile was small and careful. I pulled her into a hug like I always did. She stiffened hard, like my arms hurt her. The girl who used to run and jump into my hugs now flinched from her own father. I let go fast. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." "Thanks." The smile never reached her eyes. We made small talk for a minute. Then she leaned in and whispered, "Can we go outside? I need air." The terrace was empty. Sharp November wind cut straight through my jacket. Ava walked to the railing, arms wrapped tight around herself. When her left sleeve slipped up, I saw it. Dark purple bruises. Yellow-green older ones. Clear finger marks wrapped around her wrist like someone had grabbed her hard more than once. My heart stopped. "Ava!" She froze. Slowly she turned. Tears filled her eyes. "Dad, please don't get mad." I couldn't speak. She checked we were alone, then pulled up her right sleeve too. More bruises. She loosened the scarf, finger-shaped shadows on her neck. My hands curled into fists so tight my knuckles hurt. "Who?" I asked. My voice came out flat. "Dangerous." She looked at the ground. "Nathan." The wind roared in my ears. "How long?" "More than a year. It got worse after Mom died." Her voice cracked. I thought if I was better, quieter, he'd stop. She put a shaky hand on her stomach. "I'm 13 weeks pregnant." The ground felt like it dropped away. "Does he know?" I asked. She nodded. "He knows who you really are, Dad. All the old cases. Rossi family. Mendoza cartel. Your friends at the FBI and DOJ. He found everything 3 months ago." She took a shaky breath. "He says if I leave, or if I tell you, he'll hurt me. Hurt the baby. Then he'll come to you and make you choose. Help his campaign for Attorney General, or watch us suffer. He wants to use me to control you." White-hot rage flooded my chest so fast I almost couldn't breathe. 42 years as a federal prosecutor. I'd stared down mob bosses, cartel killers, and corrupt senators without blinking. None of them had ever made me feel like this. Nathan's voice cut through the wind behind us, smooth and charming. "There you are, honey." He walked up and slid his hand across Ava's lower back. Possessive. She went rigid again. "Most people wouldn't notice. I did." "Ethan," he said with that perfect campaign smile. "Great speech tonight. Really inspiring." I looked him dead in the eye. "Justice always wins," I said quietly. "Sometimes it just takes a little longer than people expect." His smile didn't move, but his hand pressed harder into Ava's back. They left. I watched him guide her through the crowd like she belonged to him. Watched my daughter disappear with her shoulders curled in, trying to take up less space. When they were gone, I walked to the far end of the terrace where the music was faint. November wind bit my face. I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I hadn't used in 7 years. 2 rings. Marcus Hale. Marcus, I said, voice low and rough. It's Ethan Whitaker. I need your help. A long pause. How bad is it, Ethan? I looked out over the dark city lights and answered with the truth. Bad enough that I'm ready to burn everything down. Sunday morning hit like a cold slap. I pushed open the door to Sam's Diner on Chestnut Street at exactly 7 a.m. The place smelled the same as it had for 30 years. Burnt coffee, grease on the griddle, and that faint hint of cigarette smoke that never quite left the walls. Doris, the waitress who'd been there since I was a young prosecutor, nodded at me without a word and poured 2 mugs. Marcus was already in the back booth, same one we'd used in 2012 when we took down the Rossi crew. He looked older now, but that cop posture hadn't changed. Shoulders square, eyes sharp. He stood when he saw me. Ethan, he said, voice low. I slid in across from him. The vinyl seat creaked under me like it remembered every secret we'd ever whispered here. You sounded like death on the phone last night, Marcus said, once Doris walked away. What the hell is going on? I wrapped both hands around the hot mug. The heat burned my palms, but I didn't let go. It was the only thing keeping me from shaking. It's Ava. His face changed instantly. He'd met her plenty of times, knew she was brilliant, knew she had Eleanor's fire, knew she was all I had left. Nathan's been hurting her, I said, keeping my voice flat so it wouldn't crack. Over a year now. I saw the bruises last night at the gala. Different colors, different ages, finger marks on her wrists, on her neck. Marcus's jaw tightened. He didn't interrupt. That was Marcus. Always listened first. She's 13 weeks pregnant, I went on, and Nathan knows everything about me. My old cases, the Rossi family, the Mendoza cartel, my contacts at the Bureau and the DOJ. He's been digging. He told her if she tries to leave or if I get involved, he'll make her pay. The baby, too. Then he'll come to me and say help his run for Attorney General or watch them suffer. I stared into the black coffee like it held answers. I spent 42 years putting monsters away, I said quietly. I thought I knew what evil looked like. Turns out I had one sleeping in my daughter's bed the whole time. Marcus leaned back. The booth creaked again. For a long moment, the only sound was the sizzle of bacon on the grill and the low murmur of the morning crowd. You saved my life in 12, he said finally. Rossi crew had me made. Bureau wanted to leave me in. You fought them tooth and nail. Got the extraction team in. Took a bullet for me, Ethan. I still owe you for that. He leaned forward, eyes hard. Tell me what you need. Off the books, completely. The knot in my chest loosened, just a little. Financials first, I said. Nathan makes a DA's salary. Maybe 165 grand. But they live in that downtown condo. Drive the fancy cars, country club dues. Ava makes good money at the firm, but not that kind of money. The math doesn't add up. Marcus was already pulling out a small notebook. Old school. Just like me. I've got a guy in financial crimes who can pull bank records quietly, he said. Phone logs too. If he's tracking her, there'll be a trail, apps, location data, everything. He tapped the pen on the table. And you? I'm doing what I do best, I said. Digging. 8 years of Nathan's cases as DA and ADA. I want to know which ones he pushed hard, and which ones quietly died. Patterns tell stories, Marcus. If he's dirty, there'll be breadcrumbs. I took a slow sip of coffee. It tasted like dirt, but it was hot. He thinks his badge makes him untouchable, I said. He's about to learn I didn't take down criminal empires by playing nice. I played their game better. Marcus nodded slowly. This is going to get ugly. His old man, Judge Vincent Whitaker, he's got real pull. I know, I said. My voice came out hard, but he put his hands on my pregnant daughter. I don't care who his father is. I don't care how many friends he has in high places. I'm burying him. We sat there a minute longer, the weight of it settling between us like the November chill outside. Then my phone buzzed on the table. Ava's name lit up the screen. I grabbed it fast. Marcus's hand shot out and stopped me. Ethan. I have to, I said. I answered. Hello, Ethan? Nathan's voice. Smooth, too smooth, like he was smiling on the other end. Calling kind of early on a Sunday, aren't you? My grip tightened on the phone until the plastic creaked. I was calling my daughter. Ava's resting, he said. There was a pause, long enough to feel deliberate. Pregnancy's exhausting, especially the first trimester. Wouldn't want anything to complicate things, right? The threat was wrapped in fake concern. I could almost see his perfect teeth. Let me talk to her. She's sleeping, Nathan said. Softer now. I'm sure you understand. Family's everything. We all want what's best for the baby. Another pause, then quieter. I'm glad we talked at the gala. Good to know where we all stand. The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, staring at the table. Rage and fear crashed through me so hard I couldn't breathe right. Across from me, Marcus's face had gone cold and professional. He knows, I said, setting the phone down like it might explode. He knows I know, and he's tightening the noose. Marcus stood up, dropped cash on the table. Then we move faster, he said. I'll start pulling records today. You hit the law library. Find the cracks in his armor. We blow them wide open. I stood too. Every muscle felt coiled tight, like a spring ready to snap. Nathan had just declared war. He thought he could control this because he controlled the system. He had no idea who he was really dealing with. Monday morning, the University of Pennsylvania Law Library felt like a tomb. I sat at a corner table on the 3rd floor, surrounded by stacks of case files, and a laptop screen glowing with 8 years of Nathan Caldwell's record. The building was quiet, except for the low hum of the heating vents and the occasional shuffle of a student's shoes. Outside, gray November light pressed against the tall windows, cold and flat. I wasn't here to read for pleasure. I started with the dismissed cases. Every prosecutor has a few. But Nathan had 18 in 4 years involving wealthy defendants, real estate developers, hedge fund guys, pharma executives, all charged, all quietly dropped weeks later with the same note in the docket. New evidence undermining prosecution. I cross-checked the timelines. Every dismissal came right after a big deposit into Nathan's accounts. I could feel the pattern clicking into place like a lock I'd picked 100 times before. My phone buzzed. Marcus, financial report attached. You're going to want to see this. I opened the file. Bank records. Joint accounts with Ava, Nathan's personal ones going back 5 years. The deposits jumped out like blood on snow. 60,000 here, 90 there, 150 in March, 250 last November. All labeled consulting fees or honorariums. No tax forms. No contracts. Over 4 years. 2.1 million in clean, untraceable cash. I sat back. The chair creaked under me. He wasn't just beating my daughter. He was selling justice, taking bribes to drop cases, then laundering the money through fake fees. And Ava was trapped in the middle of it, carrying his child. The rage came slow this time, deep and steady, the kind that doesn't burn out. I thought about Eleanor, how she used to sit across from me at the kitchen table late at night, reading my case notes, asking the sharp questions that always cut to the heart of things. She would have seen this coming. She always saw people clearer than I did. I hadn't. My phone rang. Unknown number. Philadelphia area code. I answered. Mr. Whitaker? A woman's voice. Nervous. Young. This is Lauren Kane. I'm Ava's assistant at Parker Mitchell. I straightened. Lauren? Is Ava okay? She's here at work. But Mr. Whitaker, I'm worried. She's not herself. She's always been so sharp, you know. Focused. But lately, she's scattered. Anxious. She canceled 3 client meetings last week. Won't take lunch breaks. Wears long sleeves every single day, even when the office is warm. Lauren's voice dropped to almost nothing. Her husband calls constantly. Every hour. When his name pops up on her phone, she gets this look like she's afraid of what's coming next. I closed my eyes. The library lights suddenly felt too bright. I appreciate you calling, Lauren, I said, keeping my voice even. Keep watching out for her, please. After we hung up, I stared at the screen without seeing it. Scattered, anxious, constant calls. He had her on a digital leash, and she was 13 weeks pregnant, trying to pretend everything was fine while the man who was supposed to love her treated her like a prisoner. I needed to see her, just for a second, just to know she was still fighting. The cafe near her office was busy at 4:30, people grabbing coffee before the commute. I took a corner table with a clear view of the door. At 4:47, Ava walked in. She moved like someone trying to disappear, head down, long sleeves. Sunglasses inside, one hand resting low on her stomach, protective, automatic. Our eyes met across the room. For one heartbeat, I saw the old Ava flash in her face. Relief, love, the little girl who used to run to me. Then fear slammed in. She gave the tiniest shake of her head, a warning. I followed her gaze to the street. Nathan's black BMW sat across the way, engine running, tinted windows hiding him, watching, waiting. Ava grabbed her coffee and left without another look. I sat there another 20 minutes, coffee going cold in my hands, feeling every year of my 68 like a weight on my chest. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, got a name for you. Isabella Fontaine, high-end political fundraiser. Photo from this morning. I opened it, Nathan in a suit, walking into a luxury high-rise on Rittenhouse Square. The kind of building where the doormen know your name and the monthly fees could buy a house. I pulled up Isabella's profile. 39. Beautiful. Divorced. Divorced. CEO of Fontaine Consulting. Connecting rich donors to politicians. Client list full of state power players. She'd been at the Gala Saturday night. The picture was getting clearer. Nathan wasn't just corrupt. He had a partner. Someone who could move his dirty money and open doors to higher office. Someone who benefited from keeping Ava quiet and out of the way. I closed the laptop. Tomorrow I'd start watching that building myself, because if Isabella was the key to Nathan's power, then she was also the key to breaking him, and I was done waiting for the system to do it for me. Wednesday morning, 6:12 a.m., I sat in my old silver sedan across from Isabella Fontaine's Rittenhouse Square high-rise. Coffee gone cold in the cup holder. The building loomed above me, glass, steel, and money. Floor-to-ceiling windows on the 25th floor glowed faintly. Her penthouse. I hadn't slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ava's hollow stare on that terrace, or Eleanor's thin hands squeezing mine in hospice, begging me to protect our daughter. Now I was 68 years old, parked in the dark like a rookie on his first stakeout, waiting to catch the man destroying my child. At 7:43 p.m. the night before, Nathan's black BMW had rolled into the underground garage. He hadn't come out. I waited. At 6:17 a.m., the garage door opened again. Nathan stepped out in the same suit from the day before, hair slightly messy, carrying a coffee. He looked satisfied, relaxed. He checked his phone, smiled at something on the screen, then climbed into his car and drove off toward the DA's office. My daughter was home alone, pregnant, probably wondering where her husband had spent the night, while he walked out of his mistress's building at dawn like it was nothing. Something inside me turned to ice, cold, hard, and permanent. Thursday, 11:03 a.m., I rode the private elevator to the 25th floor. My heart pounded steadily, the same rhythm it used to have right before I walked into a courtroom against a cartel boss. Isabella opened the door in a cream silk robe, hair messy, yesterday's mascara smudged under her eyes. She blinked twice before recognition hit. "Mr. Whitaker," her voice was hoarse, "this is unexpected. We need to talk," I said. "Now." She hesitated, then stepped aside. The penthouse was blinding. White marble, floor-to-ceiling windows looking over the Delaware River, furniture that cost more than most people made in a year. It felt cold, sterile, like a stage. Isabella poured coffee with steady hands. She thought she could control this meeting. "What brings you here?" she asked, leaning against the counter, trying to look amused. "I didn't sit. You're sleeping with my daughter's husband," I said quietly. "You're laundering his bribe money through your firm, and you're helping him plan to get rid of my pregnant daughter after the baby is born." The coffee cup stopped halfway to her lips. She set it down very carefully. "Nathan warned me about you," she said softly. "The legendary Ethan Whitaker. He said you were dangerous. I took one slow step closer. He was right." She tried to smile, but it wobbled. "What do you want?" "The truth. All of it." For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then Isabella let out a short, bitter laugh. "Fine. Yes, I'm having an affair with Nathan. Yes, I know about the money. And yes, I know about his complicated relationship with Ava." Complicated. My voice dropped to a deadly calm. "You call systematic beatings and threats against my pregnant daughter complicated?" She shrugged, but her shoulders were too stiff. "Ava is emotional. Nathan has big plans. Attorney General, maybe governor. He needs a partner who understands power, not someone who falls apart every time he raises his voice." White-hot fury roared through me, but I kept my face blank. 42 years of practice. "And the baby?" I asked. Isabella's eyes flicked away for the first time. "After the baby is born, things will be simpler. Ava will develop postpartum issues. Nathan gets custody. She gets treatment. Life moves on." She said it so casually, like she was discussing a business merger. I pulled out my phone, pressed play. Isabella's own voice filled the luxurious kitchen. After the baby is born, things will be simpler. Ava will have postpartum issues. Nathan gets custody. Her face drained of all color. I stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen, Isabella. I stepped closer. Here's what's going to happen, Isabella. You're going to give me everything. Every text, every email, every recording, every spreadsheet of bribes. Then you're going to disappear. Change your name. Vanish. And maybe I don't call my friends at the FBI and IRS tonight. Her hands started trembling. Or, she whispered, or I make one phone call. Tomorrow morning, federal agents raid this penthouse, your office, and every account you own. Your father's venture capital firm gets torn apart. Every politician you've ever touched will deny knowing you. Your face will be on every news channel as Nathan Caldwell's money laundering mistress, who helped plot the imprisonment of a pregnant woman. I leaned in. You've never faced real consequences in your life, have you? Privileged little girl playing power games. That ends today. Tears welled in her eyes. The silk robe suddenly looked ridiculous on her. I have everything, she whispered, voice breaking. Texts, recordings, spreadsheets. Nathan thought I was just keeping them for us. But I kept them to protect myself. She walked to a hidden wall safe, hands shaking badly now. She pulled out a thick folder and a black thumb drive. I took them. 24 hours, I said. If Nathan finds out about this visit, if anything happens to Ava or that baby, I will hunt you down myself. And I promise you won't like what happens next. She nodded, tears falling freely now. At the door, I looked back one last time. You helped him try to destroy my daughter. I hope that haunts you for the rest of your life. I stepped into the elevator. The doors closed. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself one single cold breath of satisfaction. I had the weapon I needed to destroy Nathan Caldwell. But 24 hours wasn't long, and I knew deep in my bones he was already starting to suspect something was very wrong. Friday afternoon, the courier arrived at my front door without a word. A plain brown envelope, no return address. Inside, a thick folder, a thumb drive, and a single handwritten note on expensive paper. This is everything. I'm already gone. I carried it to my office and spread the papers across the old oak desk. Eleanor had picked out 23 years ago. The house was silent except for the low tick of her kitchen clock, the one I'd moved in here after she died because the empty rooms hurt too much. I started with the texts. Nathan to Isabella, March 2023. She's getting suspicious about the Shilekill account. Handle it. Isabella, you're good at handling her. Nathan, I am. But the pregnancy is making her emotional. Harder to control. Isabella. Then we accelerate the timeline. After the baby, the Ava problem resolves itself. I had to stop. My hands were shaking so hard the papers blurred. They had written it down like it was a calendar note. My daughter's life reduced to the Ava problem. I forced myself to keep reading. The financial spreadsheets were worse. 18 cases. Names. Dates. Exact bribe amounts. $2.1 million funneled through Isabella's firm. Every dismissed charge had a matching deposit within days. Then the audio. I plugged in headphones at 11:17 p.m. and hit play on the first file. Nathan's voice filled my ears, calm and confident. The same voice that had charmed half of Philadelphia. Control is everything, Isabella. Ava thinks she has choices, but she doesn't. I monitor her phone, her location, her bank accounts. She can't move without me knowing. The isolation's been perfect. Isabella laughed softly. You sound like you're describing a prisoner. That's exactly what she is. And after the baby comes, it gets even easier. Postpartum depression is very convenient. No one questions when a new mother needs psychiatric care, especially when her husband is the district attorney, trying so hard to help her. I ripped the headphones off so hard the cord snapped. The chair crashed backward as I stood up. My chest felt like it was being crushed. He had said it out loud. Planned to lock my daughter away after the baby was born. Take the child. Erase her. I walked to the window and stared out at the dark backyard. The rose bushes Eleanor planted were bare and brittle now. November had killed them again. I turned to her photograph on the desk. Taken at Ava's law school graduation. Eleanor smiling, arm around our daughter. Both of them laughing at something I'd said. I'm sorry, I whispered. I was so lost in missing you that I didn't see her drowning right in front of me. The clock ticked on. Eleanor kept smiling. I sat down again, head in my hands. Saturday evening, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then something made me pick up. "Mr. Whitaker?" A young man's voice. Shaky. "This is Jordan Whitaker, Nathan's younger brother." My whole body went tight. "How did you get this number?" "From Ava's file at my firm. Look, I know this sounds insane, but I need to meet you. In person. Soon." I didn't answer right away. I was weighing every possibility. Trap. Setup. Desperate brother finally growing a conscience. Jordan's voice dropped. "I saw Ava at our family dinner 2 weeks ago. She had bruises under her sleeves. She flinched when Nathan touched her. And I've watched my brother change. I can't stay silent anymore. I want to help you take him down." I stared at Eleanor's photo. "When and where?" "Tomorrow morning. Fairmount Park, North End. 10 o'clock, I'll be alone. I swear." Sunday morning, 9:40 a.m. I arrived 20 minutes early and sat on a bench near the river path, pretending to read the Enquirer. The park was quiet. Cold wind off the Schuylkill. A few joggers. No one paying attention to an old man. Jordan showed up at 9:58 exactly. Same dark hair as Nathan, but softer eyes. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Bruises were just starting to fade on his cheek. He sat at the far end of the bench, hands visible. "Thank you for coming," he said quietly. I studied him. "Why now?" "Because I saw Ava," he answered, voice cracking. "At the family dinner. She barely spoke, barely ate. When Nathan grabbed her arm to leave, she flinched, and I followed them outside. I saw the bruises. Different colors, different ages." He swallowed hard. "I'm a defense attorney. I've represented enough abusers to know the pattern, and I've known my brother my whole life. He's always been cruel. Our father covered for him, paid people off, made things disappear. I stayed silent for years. But Ava's pregnant, and I know what Nathan will do to her if no one stops him." He pulled a USB drive from his pocket and held it out. "My father keeps records. Every bribe, every fixed case, every favor for 30 years, including everything about Nathan. I copied it last night while they were at a gala." I took the drive. It felt heavy in my palm. "Why should I trust you?" Jordan looked me straight in the eye. Tears shone there. "Because I'm willing to testify in open court against my own brother and my father. I'll lose everything. My career. My family. But if it means Ava and that baby live, it's worth it." I studied him for a long moment. Then I stood and shook his hand. "Welcome to the right side, Jordan." We walked away in opposite directions. I had Isabella's evidence. I had Jordan's. I had everything I needed to bury them all. But as I drove away from the park, my phone rang. "Marcus." His voice was tight. "Ethan, we've got a problem." I gripped the wheel harder. "What kind of problem?" "Nathan just filed a search warrant for your house. Claims you're interfering with an ongoing investigation. Tampering with witnesses. His father signed it an hour ago. They're coming tomorrow morning." I drove in silence for a moment, the cold November sun glinting off the river. "Let him come," I said finally. The war had officially started, and I was ready. Monday morning, 6:03 a.m. The pounding on my front door ripped me out of a half-sleep. I was already awake, sitting in the dark kitchen with Eleanor's clock ticking on the counter. 4 officers stood on the porch when I opened the door, search warrant in hand. Young faces, nervous eyes. They knew who I was. "Mr. Whitaker," the lead one said, not quite meeting my gaze. "We have a warrant to search the premises. D.A. Caldwell's office. Allegations of witness tampering." I stepped aside without a word. "Let them in." They moved through my house like ghosts in blue. Drawers sliding open, closets emptied, my office turned upside down. I sat at the kitchen table with a fresh mug of coffee, watching them. Every footstep echoed too loud in the quiet rooms where Eleanor and I had raised Ava. One of them opened the drawer where I kept her old letters. My chest tightened so hard I had to look away. 42 years I'd watched men like Nathan tear other people's lives apart. Now it was happening to me, in my own home, after 2 hours of finding nothing because there was nothing to find. They took me downtown for questioning. The interview room smelled like old sweat and stale coffee. 2 detectives sat across from me. One was older, eyes tired. The other kept tapping his pen. "Mr. Whitaker," the older one started, "you understand these are serious charges." I leaned forward, voice calm. "I understand they're fake. Fabricated by a man who's been beating my pregnant daughter for over a year and now wants me out of the way." They exchanged a quick look. The pen tapper cleared his throat. "D.A. Caldwell says you've been interfering with an investigation." I smiled without humor. Ask yourself why a district attorney would file charges against his own father-in-law And who signed that warrant? The room went quiet. 2 hours later, they let me go. No charges, just a quiet retreat. As I walked out of the station, Marcus was waiting by my car. Judge Vincent signed it, he said low. His own father. Massive conflict. I already called 3 federal judges who owe you favors. They're furious. Reporters are sniffing around too. Someone leaked it. I nodded, but my mind was already somewhere else. Nathan had tried to scare me. He'd only made me angrier. That afternoon, Marcus, Jordan and I met at my house. Jordan's face still carried faint bruises from his brother's fists. He sat at the table, hands clasped tight. Lauren, Ava's assistant, had risked everything to send over her schedule. I spread it out. Friday, I said, pointing. OB/GYN appointment. 1:30 p.m. Nathan always goes with her, Jordan said quietly. Won't let her out of his sight. But he has a meeting with the mayor at 2 bell, Marcus added. Campaign money, he can't miss it. I felt the plan lock into place. He drops her off at 1:30, I said. Leaves by 2 bell. We move at 2 bell on. I go in, get her. Marcus drives the extraction car. Federal agents on the perimeter in case he comes back early. Jordan looked up. She's terrified. Will she come? I thought of her eyes at the gala, the way she'd flinched from my hug. She will, I said. She's my daughter. The safe house was already set. My cousin Frank's place, retired U.S. Marshal, completely off the books. We spent the next 3 days preparing like it was a federal takedown. Marcus mapped every exit from the clinic. I rehearsed what I'd say to Ava. Jordan stayed out of sight, but kept feeding us intel from inside the family. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in the dark living room, Eleanor's photo on the table in front of me. The house creaked around me, old wood settling in the cold. Outside, a light rain tapped the windows. I whispered to her picture. I'm getting her out tomorrow, I promise. I won't fail you again. Friday, 1:15 p.m. I parked across from the clinic, heart hammering steady in my chest. Marcus waited 3 blocks away. Federal agents in 2 unmarked cars covered the street. At 1:30 exactly, Nathan's black SUV pulled up. He got out first, opened Ava's door. Even from here I could see the way his hands stayed on her back, guiding, owning. She moved carefully, one hand on her stomach, long sleeves again. They disappeared inside. I waited. At 1:55 my phone buzzed. He's leaving now. I watched Nathan walk out, glance back once, then drive off toward City Hall. 2:03 p.m. I started the engine. Marcus's voice came through the speaker. Go. I pulled into the spot Nathan had just left. In 20 minutes, my daughter would be free, or everything would fall apart. 2:05 p.m. Exactly. I pushed through the clinic doors like I belonged there. The waiting room smelled of antiseptic and old magazines. A few pregnant women sat flipping pages, but none looked up. The receptionist glanced at me. Can I help you? I'm here for Ava Caldwell, I said, voice steady. I'm her father. Family emergency. She started to speak, but Dr. Vargas appeared in the hallway behind her. The doctor's eyes met mine for half a second. Lauren must have warned her. She gave a tiny nod. Come with me, Mr. Whitaker? My shoes squeaked on the linoleum as we walked. Every second felt like a minute. Nathan's meeting with the mayor had started. He was 20 minutes away. 20 minutes to get my daughter out. Dr. Vargas knocked twice on the exam room door and opened it. Ava sat on the table in a paper gown, one hand resting on her belly. When she saw me, her face went white. Dad, what are you? I stepped inside fast. Dr. Vargas closed the door behind us. We have maybe 35 minutes, I said quietly. Nathan's at City Hall. Federal agents are outside. A safe house is ready. You're coming with me. Now, Ava's eyes filled with tears. I can't. He'll find me. He always finds me. Her voice was small, like the little girl who used to hide under the kitchen table when she was scared. I knelt in front of her, took her hands. They were ice cold. Listen to me, sweetheart. I know you're terrified. I know he made you believe there's no way out. But I spent 42 years putting men like him in prison. I have everything. Evidence, witnesses, federal protection. He can't touch you anymore. She looked at the floor. The baby. The baby comes with you, I said. Safe, loved, free. Dr. Vargas stepped closer. Ava, I checked your chart. Your blood pressure is too high. The stress is hurting both of you. Leaving is the only safe choice right now. Ava stared at my hands, holding hers. I could see the war inside her. The years of fear fighting against the tiny spark of hope I was trying to fan back to life. She whispered, "What if he hurts you too?" I squeezed her fingers gently. He already tried. It didn't work. For a long moment, the only sound was the soft beep of the fetal monitor. Then Ava took a shaky breath and nodded. Okay. Dr. Vargas moved fast. She checked the baby's heartbeat one more time. Strong and steady. She printed the strip and handed it to me. Keep this. Proof she's healthy and he's the danger. Ava changed back into her clothes in the tiny bathroom. When she came out, she looked smaller somehow, but her chin was up. We walked out the front door like any father picking up his daughter. No running, no panic, just two people leaving a doctor's office. Marcus's sedan idled at the curb. Ava slid into the back seat. I followed. The door shut with a soft click. Marcus pulled away smooth and steady, eyes on every mirror. Clear so far, he said. Agents say Nathan's still at City Hall. Ava sat rigid, hands over her stomach. The city slid past the windows. Gray buildings, bare trees, November rain starting to fall. After 10 minutes, she finally spoke. Where are we going? A safe house, I said. My cousin Frank's place. No one knows about it. Not even Nathan. She was quiet again. Then so soft I almost missed it. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I turned in my seat. You survived, Ava. That's all that matters right now. The safe house was a plain ranch home in a quiet suburb, 30 minutes outside the city. Frank met us at the door. Big shoulders, calm eyes, the kind of man who'd guarded presidents. Everything's secure, he said. No cameras, no trail. Jordan stepped out from the living room. His bruises were still fading, but his eyes were clear. Ava, he said gently. She looked at him, the first person from Nathan's family who had chosen her, and the dam broke. She walked straight into his arms and cried like the world was ending. I turned away so they wouldn't see my own eyes sting. That evening, after Ava had eaten something and rested, we set up the camera in the living room. Whenever you're ready, I said. She sat on the couch, hands folded in her lap. For 90 minutes she talked. Every shove, every threat, every time he told her she was crazy, that no one would believe her, the way he'd sabotaged her birth control, how the pregnancy was supposed to be his insurance. When she finished, her voice was hoarse but steady. Jordan wiped his eyes. I'm so sorry. Ava looked at me. Did I do okay? You were perfect, I said. Later that night, while Ava slept in the back bedroom, my phone lit up with blocked calls. I didn't answer. Marcus texted at 11:47 p.m. Nathan just filed a missing person report. Claims you kidnapped her. I stared at the message. Then another came through, and an emergency psychiatric commitment order. He's saying she's unstable and a danger to the baby. The rage came back, quiet and sharp. He wasn't done, but neither was I. Saturday morning, 8:47 a.m. The safe house phone rang sharp and loud. Jordan's voice came through, tight and breathless. Ethan, Nathan just filed for emergency psychiatric commitment. He's telling the court Ava's delusional, paranoid, a danger to herself and the baby. Dr. Curtis Roth, his old college roommate, signed the evaluation. They're coming at noon with transport officers and police. My stomach dropped like a stone. Ava was still asleep on the couch. One hand curled over her belly. The bruises on her arms had started to fade to yellow, but the fear in her eyes last night hadn't. I kept my voice low. How long do we have? 2 hours, maybe less. He's got a judge lined up. Probably one of Dad's friends. I hung up and woke Marcus with one text. Emergency stay. Now. By 9:15, we were moving. Marcus drove like the devil was behind us. I sat in the passenger seat, phone to my ear, calling in every favor I had left. Judge Patricia Morrison answered on the second ring. Ethan Whitaker, she said, voice crisp. I heard about the search warrant. What fresh hell is this? I told her everything in under 2 minutes. The bruises, the recordings, Ava's testimony from the night before. The baby. She didn't hesitate. Bring me the video and Dr. Vargas's notes. I'll be in chambers in 20. At 10:42 a.m. we stood in her office. Ava's recorded statement played on a laptop. Morrison watched without blinking. When it ended, she looked at me. This is monstrous. She signed the emergency stay at 11:03. Then she went further. A restraining order. 500 feet. No contact. No calls. No showing up at the safe house. Marcus grinned for the first time in days. He's going to lose his mind. He was right. At 11:47 a.m., Nathan was served in the courthouse hallway. Security cameras caught everything. He read the papers, then exploded. "You can't do this," he shouted, voice cracking. "She's my wife? My child? This is federal overreach. Whitaker bought you." Marshals had to drag him out. His face was purple, tie crooked, the golden DA reduced to screaming in front of reporters who just happened to be there. By noon, the footage was everywhere. Philadelphia DA loses control in court over wife's protection order. The story was growing legs. Sunday afternoon, the safe house felt smaller. Ava sat by the window, sunlight catching the faint scars on her wrists. She hadn't spoken much since the commitment threat, just stared outside like she was waiting for Nathan to appear. Jordan came by at 4:30. He brought takeout and sat on the floor with her, talking soft about old law school stories, trying to remind her she was still the same brilliant woman who'd graduated top of her class. I watched from the kitchen, heart aching. My daughter was safe for now, but the fear still lived in her shoulders, in the way she flinched at every car door outside. At 4:47 p.m., Marcus called, "Ethan, we've got movement." My pulse jumped. Where? 2 of Nathan's cars just past the general area. Not close enough to spot us, but he's circling. He's running plates on every property tied to your name in this zip code. I moved to the window. The street was quiet. Bare trees. Gray sky. A single dark sedan rolled by, slow. Windows tinted. Ava came up beside me. "Is that him?" "I don't know," I said, "but he's looking." She wrapped her arms around herself. "He won't stop." I put a hand on her shoulder. "He doesn't have to stop. We just have to finish this first." That night, the house felt like a fortress under siege. Frank stayed on watch downstairs. Marcus's team had doubled the perimeter. I sat in the dark living room, Eleanor's old clock ticking on the mantel, counting down to tomorrow. Tomorrow, Ava would walk into the federal building and tell the whole story under oath. Tomorrow, the machine would start turning. But tonight, headlights kept passing the house. Slow, deliberate, hunting. I didn't sleep. I just waited for dawn, wondering how close Nathan really was. Monday morning broke gray and heavy over the safe house. Ava stood in the kitchen doorway at 7:30, dressed in a simple black sweater and jeans, one hand on her growing belly. She looked small against the window light, but her eyes were steady now. The video testimony from Friday night had changed something in her. She wasn't hiding anymore. "I'm ready," she said quietly. Marcus drove us to the federal building downtown. The streets were slick with last night's rain. I sat in the back with Ava, her hand in mine the whole way. Every red light felt too long. Every car that pulled up beside us made my pulse jump. "You don't have to do this alone," I told her for the 10th time. "I know, Dad." Her voice was soft but sure. "But I need to say it out loud, for me, for the baby." At 9 a.m. sharp, she walked into the secure interview room on the 7th floor. U.S. Attorney James Harlan waited with 2 FBI agents and a court reporter. I stayed in the hallway, pacing the worn carpet, staring at the reinforced door like I could see through it. 4 hours. I drank bad coffee. Marcus sat on a bench, quiet as stone. At 1:07 p.m., the door finally opened. Ava stepped out, face pale but shoulders back. She walked straight to me and whispered, "They believed every word." I pulled her close. Her body shook once, then stilled. "You were brave," I said into her hair, "braver than I ever was." The rest of the day moved like a machine. Isabella Fontaine came in at 2 p.m. I watched from the observation room behind one-way glass. She sat straight in her gray suit, voice flat and cold as she listed dates, amounts, every bribe Nathan had taken. When she described the texts about solving the Ava problem, even the agents looked sick. Jordan testified Tuesday morning. His hands trembled on the table, but his words didn't. He laid out 30 years of his father's corruption, case after case, bribe after bribe. When the agent asked why he was turning on his own family, Jordan looked straight at the camera. "Because I saw what my brother did to Ava, and I finally got tired of being a coward." By Wednesday afternoon, the grand jury had everything. We waited in Harlan's office. Ava sat on the couch, rubbing her belly in slow circles. Rose kicked hard enough to make her sweater move. I watched, heart aching with a mix of joy and terror I couldn't name. At 4:47 p.m., Harlan's assistant knocked. They voted. The indictments came down like thunder. Nathan Caldwell, 18 federal counts, domestic violence, witness tampering, money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy to kidnap, Judge Vincent Whitaker, 9 counts, bribery, corruption, obstruction, arrest warrants signed at 5 p.m. I stood at the window, watching the city lights flicker on. For the first time in weeks, I felt the weight lift a little. Then Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went hard. Ethan, Nathan's not at his office. Not at home. His BMW is gone. Phone's been off since noon. Ava's hand found mine and squeezed. He's running, I said. Marcus nodded, but he's not running away. He's coming for us. Thursday morning, the first false alarm came at 7:23 a.m. A trooper in New Jersey spotted a black BMW at a rest stop. By the time they got there, it was empty. Marcus called it a decoy. At 10:47 a.m., Jordan called from a blocked number. Nathan phoned Mom this morning, from a burner. He was ranting, said he's being framed, that you bought everyone. He asked where Ava was. She told him she didn't know, but Ethan, he's not running to Canada. He's still here looking. I closed my eyes. The safe house felt smaller. The walls pressed in. That afternoon I made the call. I'm using myself as bait, I told Marcus and Harlan. They both argued, loudly, for 20 minutes, but I was done hiding. Thursday night at 6 p.m., I drove home to Society Hill alone. The house was dark and cold. Eleanor's roses outside were dead sticks in the frost. I turned on every light, sat in the living room with the curtains open, and waited. At 7:14 p.m., a gray rental car pulled up across the street. Nathan got out. He looked wrecked. Wrinkled suit, wild eyes, hair sticking up like he'd been pulling it. He crossed the street with jerky steps, like a man who'd lost the last thread holding him together. I walked out onto the lawn. He stopped 10 feet away. You took everything from me, he snarled. His voice was too loud, cracking at the edges. I was going to be Attorney General. I had a future, and you destroyed it. I kept my voice even. You destroyed yourself, Nathan. The day you put your hands on my daughter. He took another step. His hand moved toward his jacket. I saw the agents shift in the shadows across the street. Don't, I said quietly. His eyes darted left and right. He finally saw them. Marcus, the FBI, the whole trap closing around him. You set me up, he whispered. No, I said. You did that to yourself. For 1 second I thought he might give up. Then his face twisted. He spun, ran back to the car, tires screaming as he tore away. Pursuit cars exploded after him. Lights flashing. Sirens cutting the night. I stood on my lawn, heart hammering, watching the red taillights disappear. My phone buzzed. Jordan. He just called me. He's heading north. Says he's going to Canada. But Ethan, he doesn't sound like he's running to freedom. He sounds like a man who's already dead inside. I looked up at the dark house. The chase was on, but I knew in my bones it wasn't over yet. Monday morning broke gray and heavy over the safe house. Ava stood in the kitchen doorway. At 7:30, dressed in a simple black sweater and jeans, one hand on her growing belly. She looked small against the window light, but her eyes were steady now. The video testimony from Friday night had changed something in her. She wasn't hiding anymore. I'm ready, she said quietly. Marcus drove us to the Federal Building downtown. The streets were slick with last night's rain. I sat in the back with Ava, her hand in mine the whole way. Every red light felt too long. Every car that pulled up beside us made my pulse jump. You don't have to do this alone, I told her for the 10th time. I know, Dad. Her voice was soft but sure. But I need to say it out loud. For me. For the baby. At 9 a.m., sharp, she walked into the secure interview room on the 7th floor. U.S. Attorney James Harlan waited with 2 FBI agents and a court reporter. I stayed in the hallway, pacing the worn carpet, staring at the reinforced door like I could see through it. 4 hours. I drank bad coffee. Marcus sat on a bench, quiet as stone. At 1:07 p.m., the door finally opened. Ava stepped out, face pale but shoulders back. She walked straight to me and whispered. They believed every word. I pulled her close. Her body shook once, then stilled. You were brave, I said into her hair. Braver than I ever was. The rest of the day moved like a machine. Isabella Fontaine came in at 2 p.m. I watched from the observation room behind one-way glass. She sat straight in her gray suit, voice flat and cold as she listed dates, amounts, every bribe Nathan had taken. When she described the texts about solving the Ava problem, even the agents looked sick. Jordan testified Tuesday morning. His hands trembled on the table, but his words didn't. He laid out 30 years of his father's corruption, Case after case, bribe after bribe. When the agent asked why he was turning on his own family, Jordan looked straight at the camera. Because I saw what my brother did to Ava, and I finally got tired of being a coward. By Wednesday afternoon, the grand jury had everything. We waited in Harlan's office. Ava sat on the couch, rubbing her belly in slow circles. Rose kicked hard enough to make her sweater move. I watched, heart aching with a mix of joy and terror I couldn't name. At 4:47 p.m., Harlan's assistant knocked. They voted. The indictments came down like thunder. Nathan Caldwell, 18 federal counts. Domestic violence, witness tampering, money laundering, racketeering, conspiracy to kidnap. Judge Vincent Whitaker, 9 counts, bribery, corruption, obstruction. Arrest warrants signed at 5 p.m. I stood at the window, watching the city lights flicker on. For the first time in weeks, I felt the weight lift a little. Then Marcus's phone rang. He answered, listened, and his face went hard. Ethan, Nathan's not at his office. Not at home. His BMW is gone. Phone's been off since noon. Ava's hand found mine and squeezed. He's running, I said. Marcus nodded. But he's not running away. He's coming for us. Thursday morning, the first false alarm came at 7:23 a.m. A trooper in New Jersey spotted a black BMW at a rest stop. By the time they got there, it was empty. Marcus called it a decoy. At 10:47 a.m., Jordan called from a blocked number. Nathan phoned Mom this morning, from a burner. He was ranting, said he's being framed, that you bought everyone. He asked where Ava was. She told him she didn't know, but Ethan, he's not running to Canada. He's still here, looking. I closed my eyes. The safe house felt smaller. The walls pressed in. That afternoon I made the call. I'm using myself as bait, I told Marcus and Harlan. They both argued, loudly, for 20 minutes, but I was done hiding. Thursday night at 6 p.m., I drove home to Society Hill alone. The house was dark and cold. Eleanor's roses outside were dead sticks in the frost. I turned on every light, sat in the living room with the curtains open, and waited. At 7:14 p.m., a gray rental car pulled up across the street. Nathan got out. He looked wrecked, wrinkled suit, wild eyes, hair sticking up like he'd been pulling it. He crossed the street with jerky steps, like a man who'd lost the last thread holding him together. I walked out onto the lawn. He stopped 10 feet away. You took everything from me, he snarled. His voice was too loud, cracking at the edges. I was going to be Attorney General. I had a future, and you destroyed it. I kept my voice even. You destroyed yourself, Nathan, the day you put your hands on my daughter. He took another step. His hand moved toward his jacket. I saw the agents shift in the shadows across the street. Don't, I said quietly. His eyes darted left and right. He finally saw them. Marcus, the FBI, the whole trap closing around him. You set me up, he whispered. No, I said. You did that to yourself. For 1 second I thought he might give up. Then his face twisted. He spun, ran back to the car, tires screaming as he tore away. Pursuit cars exploded after him, lights flashing, sirens cutting the night. I stood on my lawn, heart hammering, watching the red taillights disappear. My phone buzzed. Jordan. He just called me. He's heading north. Says he's going to Canada. But Ethan, he doesn't sound like he's running to freedom. He sounds like a man who's already dead inside. I looked up at the dark house. The chase was on. But I knew in my bones it wasn't over yet. The chase lasted 4 days. Nathan drove like a man who had nothing left to lose. He ditched the rental near Penn's Landing, jumped on the subway north, then vanished for 8 hours. Marcus's team chased shadows, a motel clerk in Allentown who recognized him from the news, a gas station in Stroudsburg where he bought energy drinks and a map with shaking hands. Every lead came too late. I stayed at the safe house with Ava, watching her belly grow rounder each day. She was 20 weeks now. Rose kicked hard enough to make Ava smile sometimes, but the fear never left her eyes completely. At night she'd wake up gasping, whispering Nathan's name like a curse. I keep dreaming he's in the house, she told me one morning, voice small over coffee. He's standing at the foot of the bed, just watching. I took her hand. He's not getting near you, not ever again, but I wasn't sure I believed it. Jordan called every few hours from a different burner. He phoned Mom again last night. He was crying, then screaming. Said you turned Ava against him. Said the baby belongs to him. He's not running to Canada, Ethan. He's unraveling. I could hear the pain in Jordan's voice, The brother who still loved the monster, even now. Thursday night, 11:23 p.m. Headlights swept the safehouse street again. Slower this time. A dark SUV. It passed once, then circled back. Frank killed the lights inside. I stood at the window with him, gun in my hand for the first time in years. Ava was upstairs, asleep. I could hear her breathing through the baby monitor, steady, trusting. The SUV stopped at the end of the block, engine idling. Driver's window cracked just enough for a silhouette to stare toward the house. My phone vibrated. Marcus, it's him. He's using a stolen plate. We're 2 minutes out. I didn't move. My heart hammered so hard I felt it in my teeth. The SUV sat there for what felt like forever. Then the brake lights flashed, and it rolled away into the dark. Marcus's team followed. They lost him again on the highway. Friday morning at 5:47 a.m., the call came. Marcus's voice was rough from no sleep. They got him. Niagara Falls border crossing. He tried to walk across with a fake ID. Border agent recognized him. Marshals took him down clean. I closed my eyes. The relief hit so hard my knees almost buckled. He's in custody, Marcus said. Maximum security transport back to Philly. No bail. Arraignment Wednesday. Ava was standing in the doorway when I hung up. She'd heard. He's gone, I said. She walked into my arms and cried. Not the scared tears from before, but the deep shaking kind that comes when something broken finally starts to heal. Wednesday came fast. The arraignment was closed to the press, but I sat in the back row of the courtroom. Nathan was brought in wearing orange, wrists chained. He looked 10 years older, eyes sunken, hair gray at the temples. When he saw me, his face twisted with pure hate. The judge read the charges. Nathan didn't speak, just stared at the floor. Afterward, in the hallway, Jordan found me. He asked for me last night, he said quietly. First time in weeks. He told the guard he wanted to see his brother. When I got there, he didn't say a word, just cried. Then he said, "Tell Ava I'm sorry." Jordan's voice broke. I don't know if he meant it. I don't know if he even knows what sorry means anymore. I put a hand on his shoulder. You did the right thing coming forward. That's what matters. The trial was set for June, 5 months away. The trial was set for June, 5 months away. 5 months for Ava to heal, for Rose to grow, for me to sit in the dark sometimes and wonder if I'd ever stop feeling like I'd failed them both. But every morning I woke up, made coffee, and looked at the ultrasound picture Ava had taped to the fridge. We were still here, still fighting, and Nathan Caldwell was finally where he belonged, behind bars, waiting for the world to see exactly who he was. The 5 months until the trial felt like holding your breath underwater. Every day I watched Ava grow stronger and more afraid at the same time. Mornings she'd sit at the kitchen table in the safe house, hands around a mug of tea, staring at nothing. Rose would kick, and Ava's face would soften for a second, then tighten again when she remembered why we were there. I keep thinking he'll find a way, she said one rainy April morning. Even from jail, he always found a way. I sat across from her, the same way I used to when she was little and scared of thunderstorms. He's locked up, sweetheart. No phone, no visitors except lawyers. The only power he has left is the fear he put in your head, and you're taking that back, one day at a time. She nodded, but her eyes stayed far away. June 3rd, 2024. The Dirksen Federal Courthouse smelled like old wood and fresh fear. I sat in the front row behind the prosecution table, same seat I'd taken for 42 years when I was the one putting monsters away. Today I was just a father. Ava walked to the witness stand at 9:17 a.m., 30 weeks pregnant, navy dress stretched tight over her belly, hair pulled back simple and neat. She looked small up there, but her chin was high. James Harlan started gentle. Miss Whitaker, when did you first meet Nathan Caldwell? April 2022, she said, voice steady, at a legal conference in Atlantic City. He was charming, smart. He made me feel seen. She told the whole story. The slow tightening of the leash, the first time he shoved her, the apologies that always came with tears, the way he'd check her phone every night, read her emails, track her location, how he'd told her she was lucky to have him, how the pregnancy was supposed to fix everything. When she got to the part about him planning to have her committed after the baby was born, her voice cracked for the first time. He said no one would question it. A new mom having a breakdown, especially when her husband was the DA trying so hard to help her. The courtroom was dead quiet. As jurors leaned forward, One woman in the back row wiped her eyes. Then came the cross-examination. Nathan's lawyer, Peter Walsh, stood up slow like a snake uncoiling. "Miss Whitaker, you're a partner-track lawyer at one of the best firms in Philadelphia, correct?" "Yes." "And yet you want this jury to believe you were completely helpless for over a year?" Ava looked at him straight. "I wasn't in chains, but I was trapped. He controlled my money, my phone, my friends. He made me believe that if I left, he'd take my baby and I'd never see her again. He was the district attorney. Who was I supposed to tell?" Walsh smiled, thin and sharp. "Do you hate my client, Miss Whitaker?" Ava was quiet for a long second. Then she said, "No, I feel sorry for him. He had everything. Brains, power, a wife who loved him. And he threw it all away because he couldn't stand the idea that someone might leave him. That's when Nathan broke. He shot up from the defense table, face twisted, spit flying. "You're lying. You're nothing without me. I gave you everything and you destroyed me." Marshals grabbed him. He thrashed like a wild animal. I loved you, and you ruined me." The gavel cracked like a gunshot. They dragged him out, still screaming. The whole courtroom heard it. The jurors saw it. The cameras outside caught every second. Ava sat in the witness box, tears running down her face, but she didn't look away. When they finally got Nathan out, she looked straight at me. I nodded once. "You did it." The rest of the trial was almost quiet after that. Isabella testified like she was reading a grocery list. Jordan told the story of 30 years of family corruption, with his voice shaking but never stopping. The money guys laid out the spreadsheets until even the judge looked sick. On June 27th, the jury went out at 10:15 a.m. They came back at 4:47 p.m., guilty, on every single count. Ava's hand found mine under the table. She was crying, but she was smiling too. Real smiling. The kind I hadn't seen since before Eleanor got sick. 2 weeks later, sentencing. Nathan stood in an orange jumpsuit, chains on his wrists, looking like a stranger. The man who used to wear $1,000 suits and smile for cameras was gone. Judge Brennan didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. "Mr. Caldwell, you swore to protect the people of this city. Instead, you used your power to break the woman who trusted you most. This court has no mercy for that kind of betrayal." She looked him dead in the eye. 35 years. No parole for 30. Nathan didn't say a word. He just looked at me one last time as they led him away. His eyes were empty, like someone had finally turned the lights off inside him. Outside the courthouse, Ava stood at the microphones, 32 weeks pregnant, voice strong and clear. "Today justice was done, but there are thousands of women still trapped, still scared. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure they don't have to wait for a father or a federal prosecutor to save them. They deserve to save themselves." I stood behind her, chest so full I could barely breathe. My daughter wasn't just surviving anymore. She was becoming the woman Eleanor always knew she could be. September 12th, 2024, 3:47 a.m. My phone lit up on the nightstand. Ava's voice, shaky but strong. "Dad, my water broke." I was out the door in 30 seconds. The drive to Jefferson Hospital was quiet, except for Ava's breathing through the contractions. She squeezed my hand so hard her nails left marks. "I'm scared," she whispered between breaths. Not of the pain, of being a mom without him. I kept my eyes on the road. "You're not alone, and you're nothing like him. Rose is going to know love every single day of her life. I promise." 14 hours later, at 5:52 p.m., Rose Eleanor Whitaker came into the world. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, dark hair like her mother's, tiny fists waving like she was already ready to fight. When the nurse placed her in my arms, something inside me cracked wide open. I looked down at that little face and saw Eleanor's smile, Ava's fire, and a future that wasn't broken anymore. "I kept my promise," I whispered to the baby. "I protected your mom. Now I'll protect you too." The first year was hard. Ava moved into a little apartment 3 blocks from my house. She went back to work in January, but not at the big firm. She joined a nonprofit that helped women leave men like Nathan. Twice a week she testified in Harrisburg, pushing for new laws. In May 2025, Ava's law passed. District attorneys had to step aside in cases involving family. Small change, huge difference. Rose grew fast. By July she was walking, chasing the dog next door, laughing so loud the whole block smiled. She never knew the man who tried to break her mother. She only knew safety. Ava started seeing someone in June. Michael, a quiet teacher from the elementary school. He was patient, kind. He didn't push. He just showed up with flowers and listened when Ava needed to talk about the bad nights. One Sunday in July 2025, we sat in the backyard. Eleanor's roses were blooming again. Ava and I had replanted them 2 years earlier. Now they climbed the fence in red and pink and white, filling the air with sweet scent. Rose toddled through the grass in her yellow sundress, clutching a dandelion like it was treasure. "Opa, flower." I knelt down and took it from her. "Beautiful, sweetheart. Just like you." Ava came out carrying lemonade. She wore one of my old Penlaw sweatshirts and looked younger than she had in years. The shadows under her eyes were gone. The fear, too. "Rose, don't bother Grandpa," she called, smiling. "She's not bothering me," I said. "She's helping. 3 generations in your mom's garden." Ava sat beside me on the bench. We watched Rose chase a butterfly. "Mom would have loved her," she said softly. "She does," I answered. "Wherever she is, I can feel it." I looked at the roses, at my daughter, at the little girl who would never know what it felt like to be afraid of her own father. I never believed in fate until that November night at the Gala. But maybe it wasn't fate. Maybe it was just a father who finally woke up. I spent 42 years putting bad men in prison. I almost lost my daughter because I missed the signs right in front of me. The long sleeves, the canceled lunches, the way she flinched when someone touched her. If you're reading this, listen to me. Don't wait. If someone you love starts disappearing, pulling away, making excuses, hiding bruises, don't look the other way. Ask the hard questions. Believe them when they finally tell the truth. Love isn't soft. It's fierce. It fights. I fought for Ava, and we won. Nathan Caldwell is prisoner 847293. Now, he'll be an old man before he ever sees the outside again. But we're here, in Eleanor's garden. Safe, healing, growing. Rose laughs. The roses bloom. And somewhere, I know Eleanor is smiling. We made it home, my love. We made it home.